Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Hello and welcome to Energy Outlook. Here is where business meets with energy. My name is Tolu Thompson, and today we are reaching out for the spotlight and talking about a matter with far-reaching impact. We're talking tackling energy accessibility for the last mile. Today, the conversation is beyond just power. It's about sustainability, it's about equity, and it's about the future of undeserved communities across Nigeria. Nigeria has the world's highest number of people without electricity access, and over 92 million Nigerians, nearly 45% of the population, still live in the dark. In comparison, India has reduced its energy gap to below 5%, while Kenya has electrified more than 75% of its rural communities through strong investments in off-grid solar. Despite Nigeria's rich solar potential, receiving between 4.0 to 6.5 kilometers per hour day, many rural areas remain undeserved due to high costs, limited infrastructure, and policy setbacks. To achieve universal energy access by 2030, Nigeria must connect over 20 million households, a goal that will require more than $25 billion in clean energy investments. Bridging this gap means scaling solar adoption, promoting local innovation, and ensuring that the energy transition reaches even the most remote communities. But before we dive deeper into this conversation, we will get into our top stories in the energy sector for today. First off, we'll begin with the latest developments in Africa's energy sector. Ikeja Electric, Eko Electric, and AEDC top remittance chart in discuss pay 1.18 trillion naira in 2024. The Nigerian Electric Regulatory Commission, NERC, has revealed that electricity distribution companies Discos completely and collectively remitted a total of 1.18 billion trillion, in 2024. This remittance figure represents the gross sum with an outstanding deficit of 185 billion naira, translating to an overall remittance performance of 86.47%. This is contained in the newly released 2024 NERC's annual report. According to the NERC, this cost remitted a gross sum of 1.184.88 billion naira, leaving a total deficit of 185.47 billion naira. This translates to an overall remittance performance of 86.47%. Eko, Ikeja, and Abuja Discourse had the highest remittance performances with 99.33%, 94.43%, and 90.42% respectively to NBT in 2024, while Kaduna achieved the lowest remittance performance to NBT by 32.77%. Away from that now, we move to the next story as marketers protest as Dangote moves to crash cooking gas price. President of the Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, has announced plans to reduce the price of liquefied petroleum gas, also known as cooking gas. He also promised to start direct sales of the product to consumers should the existing distributors fail to allow the price crash in cooking gas. However, operators in the sector have disagreed with the plan, saying the businessman was planning to monopolize the LPG sector. They kicked against the move on Monday as the dealers expressed fear of a possible monopoly. Speaking during a recent tour in his refinery by some rural and foreign assets, Dangote stressed that the current price of cooking gas is expensive and not affordable for common people who depend on firewood for cooking. It disclosed that the refinery now produces 22,000 tons of LPG daily, and it is ramping up production for distribution into the Nigerian market, especially as Nigerians move towards the use of gas for cooking. Away from that now, we move on to our next story. Bayo Ojulari, NNPC considering sale of refineries, rehabilitation becoming more complicated. Bayo Ojulari, the Group Chief Executive Officer, CEO of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, says it is becoming a bit more complicated to revamp state-owned refineries. On November 26, the NNPC said the Port Harcourt refinery had finally commenced crude oil processing, but the refinery shut down in May for maintenance. The Warri and Kaduna refineries are, however, still undergoing rehabilitation. In an interview with Bloomberg on Thursday, Ojulari said the NNPC is currently reassessing its refinery strategies and aims to finalize the review by year-end. The NNPC boss spoke to Bloomberg on the sidelines of the 9th OPEC International Seminar in Vienna, Austria. And that's all on our top stories for today. And now to the agenda for tonight. We are spotlighting a very pressing issue, tackling energy accessibility for the last mile. Joining us for this essential conversation is Triumph Ekeasayato, Business Development Executive at TSL Engineering. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break as we delve deeply into this conversation. We'll be right back.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Welcome back to the program. This is Energy Outlook. Right now, we are delving right into the conversation for the day. We are tackling energy accessibility for the last mile. Joining us on the program is Triumph Eke Sayato, the Business Development Executive at TSL Engineering. Hello, Triumph. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right, let's dive right into the conversation. So in what practical ways would you say on-cycle technologies like solar lanterns contribute to improving energy access in Nigeria's undeserved and off-grid communities? Hello, Triumph. Please, we can't hear you. Can you kindly unmute your microphone? Hello, Triumph. If you can hear me, kindly unmute your microphone. We are trying to get you to speak loudly. Yes, please, we can hear you.
So thank you very much. So EchoSat Triumph, I know it can be a hassle. It's a pleasure to come on the show and speak about, a pressing topic that really affects each and every one of us. So energy access in Nigeria, and as understandable, it's continuous work by people within the sector and the power sector. And yes, for sure, they are very hard to reach regions, which we've not really fully connected with. So as per your question, so as much as it's hard for our main grids to reach this area, or there's not as much supply of electricity to this area, recycled solar, what do we call them, solar lanterns, usually made from e-waste, have really helped in illuminating these areas. We tend to think about a lot of ways we can help in the productivity of those areas, and these lanterns are for sure help school children. Again, these are places that have no access to electricity, so solar energy, very easy to be able to power light in these areas. There's a lot of work that really goes on with production and processing in these unserved areas. Most of them are really located in agriculture, mainly agricultural focused. So a lot of this processing. So definitely, as much as work is still ongoing to connect them to the grid, solar lanterns have definitely paved the way. I'm sure we can all remember. It's very interesting to see, really. We can all remember when we used the tin lights that had the LEDs, and we had to put the big Tiger batteries, and it's moving to LED lights. And now, being that much efficient, we've been able to move on to now solar energy, storing it in batteries and using it more portable, using it as portable devices in those homes. So for sure, development, yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Triumph. But what would you say are some of the challenges, if you say financial challenges, technical challenges, logistical challenges that are preventing solar adoption in these rural areas, and how would you say these challenges can be addressed?
Okay, so there's regarding challenges for these guys. So for solar adoption, again, because we are trying to give access to them, there's also the issue of maintenance. There's issue of breakdown of these solutions provided for these people. So there's a lot of challenges with the maintenance. There's a lot, because now we are working on, as much as we are putting it there, we need to also train people to be able to both handheld and big systems that are in these communities. So there's a lot of work ongoing with training with federal government, and it's training with federal government. And then you spoke about what move to improve on it. Um, there's a lot of funds right now. The focus right now is electrification. The focus right now is energy access, which is a good thing because when you increase energy access, you are increasing productivity, you are increasing food. The agricultural sector. I look forward to the agricultural sector, working well because as much as we are able to expand on energy access, a lot of things become cheaper. So when we talk of the work that people are doing. So there's a lot of private funds, as much as we also want to, there's a lot of grants also available for them. The REA is working towards, done a great job with providing these solutions for these communities. But then again, we are trying to transition from, having these as grants to also, private public, with private sector and also the public sector working towards tackling this. So and we understand that when it becomes a service, when we're about to use this as a service, when we use energy as a service, which a lot of people are already working on, it becomes easier for maintenance. We are now sure that these solutions are going to be there for more and more years. They're not, the maintenance is taking care of the it becomes a business essentially.
Right.
And when it's a business, we know that this is something that'll be here to stay. Yeah.
All right, that's actually very profound. But what role would you say e-waste can play in this? And I say that to ask that, can repurposing e-waste for energy products also help to close the affordability gap for last mile electrification? And do you think Nigeria can replicate this on a large scale?
Oh no, so interestingly, yes, you make a very good point because Nigeria currently is one of the biggest, should I call it dump of e-waste in the world, especially in Africa. We're one of the biggest dump of e-waste in Nigeria, in Africa. Nigeria is one of the biggest in Africa. So that's also an opportunity we can leverage on. There's the issue, like you said, there's the issue of affordability, as much as there's a lot of work ongoing to make, access to push access within these communities and within hard to reach communities. There's a role e-waste can definitely play. Like I had earlier said, solar host electricity had moved on from us using our torchlight when there was no light to LEDs, which were much more energy efficient, and now to solar LEDs. So definitely it plays a huge role in tackling this. I mentioned we have a huge e-waste problem in Nigeria. Love that the Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency has worked to, putting in the necessary steps to making sure that, as much as we have this e-waste in the community, we have this e-waste problem in Nigeria, they're also working on how to utilize them. So we are talking, e-waste solar lanterns. So, laptop batteries can definitely be repurposed. Out in the wild, they are definitely a hazard, but they can be repurposed and used for, mini LED solar touchlights. It makes it much more accessible to other people. And of course, these systems, which now are not a lot more technical, they are not very, very cumbersome, becomes easy to scale, it becomes easy to, push out. And, I think that there's a huge market for it. And I'm happy to say that for sure there are some, e-waste recycling firms in Nigeria that are working towards that. And there are also some that are working towards repurposing all of this into mini systems, into small handheld systems that is, providing light for these communities.
Okay. All right, so now let's talk about circular energy businesses and the roles of government policy and incentive in, helping to shape the business of this, conversation. What do you think the role of the government and the policies that they make help in shaping this?
I mean, I spoke about, the agency that's currently working on it. So for sure, yes, there needs to be a lot more attention towards this angle of things, because like you said, And like I said, it really helps with the affordability, and it becomes, when it's more affordable, it's easy to scale up. So just, personal experience. I've been to very remote areas that, to even get fuel are it's very hard, and you can actually see how, recycled, you can see how recycled solar systems, they are very creative with it, have solved this problem. So we are happy that, as much as there's a lot of policies that work on, trying to make e-waste, much useful for us, there's still a lot more work to be done. So I say this because as much as, we've put in, lower the tariffs for importation of solar products in Nigeria, there can be tax incentives for these e-waste. You understand? So if we can, now try to turn the tides, or try to replicate what we've done with adopting renewable services and renewable solutions in Nigeria, it would be nice for us to also replicate those models for e-waste solutions too, that would drive, private and public sector attention for them to really take part in this.
All right, thank you very much, Triumph. You're really talking more about, this conversation, and I'm glad that we have it, because now we've just spoken about how the government can be a part of supporting this by the policies that they make. What do you also say about private, sectors as well? Do you think like a partnership between the public sector and the private sector can help to, accelerate and support, these conversations, especially when it comes to sustainable lanterns and mini solar systems in all these undeserved communities?
Thank you for, like I said, we've moved, past, leaving everything for the government and, trying to say, what can they do? There's a lot of solution government, and, trying to say, what can they do? There's a lot of solutions going on, but solutions, there's a lot of, government. I think there's a lot of work the government can do, and as much as I still tell the government, there's a lot of work other agencies can do. We can, like I spoke about REA earlier, very, very focused on, solving this energy access problem, but there is a gap. There's definitely a gap. They can definitely play a role in making it easier for private sector to take a part in this. So when we even look at, organizations coming in, we can also look at schools. For instance, we can also look at private schools. As much as we want the private and public, so as much as we want the private sector to play a role, we need the government and, with help from relevant agencies to put them together and find ways to make it viable, so we'll be able to push and make it profitable for them. It will be easier for, I'm pro Nigeria. It's definitely be a good thing if Nigerian company takes that, pushes and leads the charge in adopting, this e-waste alternative. And it's interesting because, yes, definitely, a lot of people, we've done a lot of work with, solarization generally across, our space. We've done a lot of work with, having a bottoms up approach. And I say that because I mentioned school. So we are trying to teach that in universities and trying to let them understand that, this is the engineering department, this is something you can work on. Also trying to train them, so when they come out of schools, they're already very, very, very knowledgeable on a much more educated and more technical on the technical aspect of things. But even for e-waste, this is something we can do. You understand? Like, we can move in and let people know that e-waste is something that, having them create things out of waste, what would actually take as waste. Yeah, pushing it across board, doing like a bottoms up approach, just like we've done, like I said, with solarization and really adopting PV solutions in Nigeria. That is something we can do for e-waste in Nigeria. yes, there's a lot of work with setting up, the regulations, and I think there's a lot of more work to be done when it comes with making it an attractive sector for people to come invest in. And I know for sure, this is um, this is a this is a space where it becomes a lot more affordable for people in these underserved areas.
Right. I mean, I like that you said you're very pro-Nigerian, and that, I mean,
Yeah.
that's all we want to see, But let's take these conversations to quality control. What standards and quality control systems do you think can help lead for, to ensure safety, reliability, and most importantly, user trust, for solar e-waste hybrids?
Okay, so when we say um, quality controls, the standards are there. Honestly, I think there was even a revision of the standards in 2022. Yeah, so there was a revision. The standards are there. So right now, the main focus is really attracting the investors. So yeah, for quality control, what you speak with, we are talking also about user and adaptability, having a lot more people use it. I think not a lot of work needs to be done. The solar, everybody has solar systems. Everybody knows about solar systems, right? It's already a lot of people know of these solutions. A lot of people are already adopting it in their own private homes. Their home solar systems. But letting them know that as much as it is cheaper now compared to before, it can be way, way cheaper if we bring in more investors and use this e-waste. Of course, more structures needs to be done. Like I said, um, um, a lot of work has already been done, with the regulation. But now we are speaking more on the maintenance. I think we spoke about that a bit earlier. We are now speaking more of the maintenance. We're now speaking more on frameworks where standards are being met, where we have like a certification, for instance. We need a certification in just as we've done in the other energy assets, solar sector. We can also have something like that for e-waste, specifically for e-waste, so that we make sure the things that are going out there, we can trust them. We are sure that if you use this for a particular number of years, you'll be fine. Of course, this is way cheaper. We will see the adoption. As long as all of this is set up, we will definitely see the adoption. We are providing, the aim is to provide electricity and energy access for people in way remote areas. I know we all think that there's internet everywhere in Nigeria. I've been to places where there's no internet. If you give them, and they already use solar solutions over there. So if you now give them, if you add affordability to it, and they understand that there's almost no difference with the product they are using and the e-waste alternatives, not alternatives, just the e-waste products. I don't think there'll be a lot of work. We don't need to do a lot of work with the adoption. People will use it. I mean, come on, it's Nigeria.
All right. Thank you very much, Triumph. I mean, we have so much more regarding these conversations. Well, we will take a short breather right now. And when we come back, we'll be talking more about the impacts and innovations for electricity in undeserved areas here in Nigeria. We'll be right back after this short break. Don't go nowhere.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Welcome back to the program. This is still Energy Outlook right here on your screen, and we're diving deeper into the conversation, tackling energy accessibility for the last mile. And joining us once again is Triumph Ekwa-Sayato, the Business Development Executive at TSL Engineering, and we're exploring solutions and innovations on this electricity conversation in underserved areas here in Nigeria. All right, Triumph. So before we went on the break, I was talking about the fact that we will be delving into, impact measurements and innovations for the underserved areas. So, but what innovations in e-waste recycling would you say that, could prefer solutions over the next 5 years?
So, the circular economy is important as much as, we are working towards advancing, especially reaching our NTC goals, reaching our climate action goals. Being able to tap into, a circular economy is very important. And one of them will be letting people understand that as much as these are e-waste products, they are also very useful in in the long run. They can definitely be repurposed for other things, and they have a second chance at life. Yeah. And then just really speaking about school, which I touched on earlier. It affects a lot of things. At the time we are having by the time we are having schools, work on e-waste, by the time there's, a reduction of e-waste, by the time there's a reduction on, and the time there's more adoption of, these e-waste solutions, circular economy is a circle. It really just really touches on a reduction, in CO2 emissions and a reduction in health hazards. And these, I also touched on, the agricultural sector. This will definitely help, a lot of processing within the agricultural sector, providing much more needed access for them. It's all connected for sure. It's definitely all connected. And something else that that can be done is, the enforcement of these standards, is the certification, is the like I said, the standard, the certification, the training of people on utilizing this, these e-products and making sure that these e-waste and making sure that they are useful. Just as a touch on energy access in general, it helps us greatly. It helps us with affordability, and it's definitely something we should move on. Definitely something we work on. It's good there's a lot of work in it, but a lot more work can be done. It can be a lot more attractive to the private sector people, and in the grand scheme of things, it works perfectly towards our climate action goals.
Absolutely. But then how would you say impact can be measured, such as lanterns deployed, e-waste recycled, and what benchmarks do you think can be used to measure these impacts?
So, the RA actually did do a pilot for electrification in in Osun State. Again, this is not really very a new field. I think the new part of it is the fact that we are now using the e-waste that we already have here, and we are repurposing the waste for we are repurposing the waste for electrification and increasing access. So for lanterns, like I said earlier, right? I have been in communities where, in very far village communities, where we had to do a couple of work, and where they have troubles with internet, and you see people with their mini solar solutions, with their mini solar touchlights. It is not a gray area at all. There are people that are actually, using and doing this. About 18,000, reused batteries saves us about 1.5 kg of CO2, definitely. I think the numbers that are there for the numbers are definitely there, and I think around those ranges. So definitely, when we even look at the impact, when we look at the people side of things, where happy receiving this product and happy using this product, it becomes part of their daily life. There's no there's no question about it that we are impacting people's lives. We are reusing our waste, and just all around, it's positive. It's positive.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So beyond electricity now, what other day-to-day activities or energy needs do you think e-waste, solar-powered tools can help address issues in rural Nigeria?
Okay. So yes, we spoke a lot about handheld, solar lanterns, but we are talking about batteries here. It's not just tied to that. It's not just tied to using it as as lantern solutions or lighting solutions. We can definitely use it in processing. We can definitely use it in processing. We can definitely use reuse batteries for electrification in health, for instance, in healthcare, for instance. So it really touches across sectors. In agriculture, that was when I talked about processing. We can also use them in leather processing, for instance. We can also use them in driving some of our agricultural PUE instruments. So for sure, it cuts across the chain, the value chain. It cuts across different sectors, and yeah, we are not tied to the lightning part of things. These are power sources. The power source is reused power source, and just aside lanterns, there are different parts of e-waste that are very useful. We are talking about copper coils that are used, wires, for instance, e-waste wirings. These wirings can definitely be used. There's also a lot of minerals that are used, solid minerals that are used in each of our devices. For instance, this can definitely be collected back and reused again. Minerals definitely do not waste; they are reusable. So it's not tied to solar lantern products. It cuts across the value chain. We can definitely give these other things a second chance at life.
Okay. Triumph, it's one thing to create this solar technology and devices. It's another thing to maintain them. But then how do you think the youths in these underserved areas can be trained to maintain and repair these solar technologies and devices?
So there's a lot of work already, like I said, with making sure that it's easier for people to come into e-waste recycling. There's also a couple of them in Nigeria, and also repurposing these e-waste products. But yes, more work can definitely be done, because it's reduced life, of course, as much as we are using it and we are giving it to these people. what can definitely the training centers can be set up within these communities. They can be trained, they can be trained to, as much as we are certifying that these products are good and they are made properly, for the maintenance and the repair, work can be done towards training. So that's why I talked about the how we've gone so far with PV modules and solar home systems in Nigeria. Just using that as a benchmark, you can see how the offtake has gone up. Yes, we definitely need to work on setting up a certification arm of this e-waste. But yes, these are I feel we are not building from the ground up. You understand? We just need a lot more frameworks attached to already set up agencies. So it's definitely doable. As much as we are teaching and training people how to repair and how to maintain, we can also train them how to repair and maintain these e-waste products.
Okay, so I remember that, during the course of the program, you mentioned something about the bottom-up innovation, that you're really, up for that. But do you think that the current Nigeria's energy policy is doing enough to support the bottom-up innovation, or is it too focused on grid expansion, I beg your pardon?
That is why we are having this conversation, to also throw more light towards, e-waste and the opportunities within, that sector. Yes, we are a little bit focused on, on fixing our grid and expanding our grid, which is good. But then again, the work can happen, it can definitely happen at the same time. We are a little bit more focused on grid expansion and grid maintenance. But yes, a lot of more can be done definitely in the e-waste section for e-waste materials, e-waste solutions, so to say.
Oh, okay. So now for communities that have already received these technologies and devices, what are the long-term usage patterns, you would say, or challenges that they would typically report?
So again, just circling back to certification, circling back to making sure that the whatever solutions we put out to we put out into Nigeria and into that will give out to these unserved and underserved areas, we need to make sure that they are well made. We need to make sure that there's a body that certifies that those products are done well. Because actually, yes, there's a problem with some of them do not, they do not last very long. Some of the initial, feedbacks from sending these solutions out is issues with maintenance, is issues to how long it lasts. But yes, there are opportunities for a lot of work to be done. We're making sure that as much as we are, training them on how to repair, how to maintain, we are training them on how to make these products. We also need to put down frameworks and make sure that the products, whatever products we send into the market, whatever solutions we send to these communities are done well. We definitely leave the set lifespan they are meant to stay, that they are meant to, to keep being useful.
All right, thank you very much. Triumph Ekosaya-Ator, Business Development Executive at TSL Engineering. Thank you so much for being a part of today's conversation, tackling energy accessibility for the last mile. Thank you once again for being a part of the program tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Tonight's conversation has brought critical focus to the challenge of expanding energy access to Nigeria's underserved communities. And, these conversations are very much needed so that we can see the future and how we can expand access to undeserved communities in Nigeria. And on that note, as we wrap up the program tonight, let us reflect on the words of the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adeshina. He said, and I quote, "Energy access is not just about powering homes, it is about unlocking potentials. It's about creating jobs, improving healthcare, and driving inclusive growth." That's it on the show tonight. Thank you so much for watching. But before we call it a wrap, do not forget you can follow us on all of our social media platforms at Energy Outlook Show, and also contribute your thoughts and your insights on the conversation that we've had today, and let us continue the conversation on social media. You can also use the hashtag Energy Outlook Show, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. Until next time, remember that you stay engaged, stay informed, and remain committed to building a transparent and sustainable energy future for Nigeria. From Tolu Thompson, it is peace, love, and bye-bye.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.